Welcome back to the Mortgage Chatter. I'm one of your hosts, Tyler Kornhauser.
And I'm Ken Land. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a while since we filmed, actually, but we're back. I think it's going to be the last episode with our nice backdrop.
For short term, we are moving, but
Yep.
we'll have a good backdrop. We'll make it interesting.
It'll still be fun, for sure.
Exactly.
I could color something.
You could.
Could.
Mural in
Show
there.
my artwork.
So,
we have a special
Yep.
guest.
uh,
Begrudgingly, but we have a special
Begrudgingly.
guest.
yeah.
I'm rolling my eyes.
Miss Jane Kornhauser. You might recognize the last name. She is our ops manager and also my mother. So,
Careful with the questions.
Right.
yeah, right. So we got her on here to talk a little bit more because you've seen what loan officers do. You've heard about that, but what happens behind the scenes?
Behind
A
the
lot of
scenes.
stuff happens behind the scenes that even loan officers might not know exactly what's going on. So,
Making it happen.
yep, we got the queen herself to fill us in on some stuff. So,
She does make
I
the
need
magic
a
happen.
crown.
A crown and a...
Oh,
You may
absolutely
have
not.
You may have a cape and you
I have
may
a
have
cape.
a...
I have
staff
scepter.
thing.
Yeah. No crown.
That's awesome.
So, after you get a contract in, loan officer plugs it all in, and what happens in terms of the operations standpoint? We send it over to the disclosure team. What's that look like? How do they go about doing their job?
So after the contract and the loan officer does all their stuff to make a pretty file, they
We
send
like
it.
pretty files.
We like pretty files. We like information. They send it to the disclosure team, and the disclosure team is responsible for checking the numbers, checking the fees, and making sure that the LO has everything in there accurately, and then sending out the disclosures to the borrower that have to go out within 3 days.
So what happens if say we didn't have a disclosure team and the loan officer didn't put a certain fee or something and
Ooh, I can answer that
Oh,
one.
oh,
It's
oh.
expensive.
That may have happened,
Yeah.
and that's why we have a disclosure team.
there you go.
So,
So essentially they cross the T's, dot the I's, and make sure everything's going
Check
out
the numbers.
properly.
Exactly.
they know what numbers go where.
Yep. So
So.
Yeah, you want the forms to be accurate. You want them to be very clear, and you know.
there's a lot of documents that go out with that initial disclosures. So it's good to have one person specialized to make sure it's all consistent and accurate, right?
And it's important that the disclosures, you as the buyer, or on a refinance, when you get your disclosure package, it's simply that, it's the disclosures. It's nothing that's set in stone yet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Estimate.
Exactly, it's a loan estimate, right? The numbers can change up or down depending upon the finals, but we're usually pretty dialed in on them.
Yep.
But then the forms themselves are just really more pertaining to authorizations, saying, hey, this will let us do verification of employment, do assets, or whatever, and then roll from there.
Yep.
So
Pretty much gives us permission to proceed. So
exactly. So we do the disclosures.
Yep.
There's a link that goes out for.
Oh. I was not.
I thought you were going
yeah,
towards the
I was going
disclosures.
towards the
Sorry.
disclosures.
You
too.
sign your disclosures.
Yep.
You e-sign your
So
disclosures.
you e-sign your disclosures, and that gives us the intent to proceed,
Mhm.
because that tells us the borrower is in fact going to proceed with the sign form, and then we send out a link for the appraisal, so that you can go ahead and pay for your appraisal. And once the appraisal is paid for, we order, it's in processing, and the processor is responsible for ordering all the third-party documents needed, which would be your appraisal, it would be your title, employment verifications, engineer certs if you're a manufactured home, anything that has to be ordered from a third party.
Yeah.
So,
And is that still the disclosure team, or
processor does that.
there we go?
Yes.
So after
So
you sign the disclosures, the processor jumps in and
Right.
and does
She-
all that fun stuff.
She does all the third party, she reviews the file to make sure we have the documentation that we need, to make sure we have up-to-date documentation, pay stubs that are within 30 days, bank statements that are within 30 days,
Yep.
credit inquiry letters. So she reviews it behind the loan officer to get it ready to go to the underwriter.
Right, because she's not underwriting it. She
No.
doesn't approve it.
She's just reviewing it and making it prettier. So we go from pretty
to
prettier. So
There we go. So
go ahead, no, after you.
So after the underwriter, the processor submits it to the underwriter, and they sit there and they go through and verify the prettiness of the file and make sure it's at least an 8, right? and then they'll come back to the loan officer as well as the processor and have an update of what further may be needed for the approval of the loan. So
Conditions.
conditions, yeah, as they
so.
call it. Mm-hmm.
So the underwriter really scours the loan,
Mm-hmm.
and they look for everything that's under the mat even. And then once it comes back, the processor, the loan officer will reach out to the borrower.
Mm-hmm.
And these are items, again, that the underwriter has requested, so that they might seem, some of them, a little bit ludicrous, but there's a reason behind it.
Yeah.
And the borrower can always ask the reason of, I don't understand, and we can give them the reason, but they're documents that we need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, things like larger than normal deposits.
Right.
Yep.
You know, if all your deposits are automated payroll, and then suddenly there's a counter deposit of $10,000, we need to know where that came from.
Exactly.
Right? So, you know, that's a legit question.
That's-
I mean, it
For
is.
sure, yeah.
That's it. Probably. What would you say? Most underwriting conditions probably revolve either around employment, income, and assets.
I would say, yeah, definitely those three. A lot around the income, especially if income there's been a huge increase or there's been a decrease, that always has to be explained, so.
Variations, variable income.
Variable income.
Mm-hmm.
Throw in overtime, but not consistent overtime.
Yeah.
It's a little crazy. Not that we've ever seen that before.
I've never seen any of that.
Or commissions that are declining and rising and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So,
And those are all the things that have to be explained, so.
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
typically the processor's gonna chase that down unless having issues with, you know,
Communication.
communication or things of that nature. So, you know, in a way, the processor's kind of quarterbacking the foul.
Exactly, yeah.
We'll call him the quarterback.
That's a football term.
Hut, hut.
I know this now.
Good
Now,
job.
yeah,
Now,
there you
now
go.
I know this.
So,
She's growing up.
we've got the final approval now from the underwriters, and we're clear to close. The processor has done all of their jobs, making sure the underwriter got what they need, and now we're clear to close. So we have a closer similar to our disclosure team.
He's the closer.
The closer, that'd be a cool name. And you want to touch a little bit on what they do? And
So the closer's responsible for the closing package, but
No.
right?
So,
The closer will send the initial closing disclosure, so that has to go out 3 days prior to closing, and they're gonna make sure we meet our timelines so that we can close on time.
Yep.
They're going to prepare the closing package. They work really closely with the attorney, the paralegals, to make sure that the numbers balance, to make sure that the wire goes out, because we have to have the money at the attorney's office, or
that
signing
helps.
those documents don't mean
That's
anything.
right.
So the closer basically finishes up the file for us.
and they communicate with the attorneys, correct?
Attorneys, yes, attorneys and paralegals.
That's it. Probably more with the paralegals.
Yeah.
The attorney's office. There we go.
So really backing up though, so the loan gets approved, and that's when the initial CD can go out, initial closing disclosure, and that's where they'll start working with them to hone in those numbers and get them all reconciled.
Mm-hmm.
And in theory, you're gonna know these dates and timelines better, but I mean, the initial CD for us is going out, what, about 10, 12 days early, probably, maybe 14?
Last month it went out 17 days.
17 days early, so you're getting a rough draft.
Very
That's
rough.
all it is, very rough. I mean, the numbers
Yeah.
aren't all reconciled at that point. But what that does is TRIB requires government timelines and stuff. CDS be out how many days?
3 days.
3 days. So you got your 3 days. We're 17 days. We're not running into TRID issues. Yay.
Not running into issues.
So, but then you go over those numbers. LO goes over the numbers. Quarterback doesn't. LO does. Reviews all the numbers, makes certain that there's no surprises. And closing package is out. How were we last month? How many days prior to closing?
I would say closing package goes out probably 2 or 3 days. We actually don't try that. So, but that's all. The closing package can't go out until the file has final loan approval, clear to close. That we were running about 8 days early. So,
it's, you know, again, when you're thinking about processes and thinking about who to work with, knowing that everything is done 8 days prior to
Mhm.
going to closing. So if you're closing on Friday, you know the Thursday beforehand, everything is done,
Yeah.
right? A little bit less stressful.
For everybody, for sure.
Can enjoy the weekend that way,
Mhm.
right?
Yep,
And it's also a reflection of the amazing team that she works with.
exactly.
She runs a
They
great
are,
ship.
They are
Yeah.
amazing.
She runs
The
a great
team
ship.
is amazing. The loan officers are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great team.
It's a good team.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving pieces, so it's good to see the background condos. I know we have a special condo team here. Condos are a different world of their own. A lot of other moving parts for those. If you want to touch a little bit on the condo team and.
So yes, condos require approval. Each individual condo has to be reviewed to be sure that it's the occupancy, how many owner-occupied properties there are, how many investment properties, does the condo association have reserves, do they have enough
How's the budget?
insurance? And this is just basically all to protect the consumer in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have a condo team that handles that completely, from corresponding with the HOAs and getting the condo questionnaires and the master insurance
Right.
and any other document that we need. So that makes it easier. It frees up the processor so they don't have to worry about it. It frees up the loan officer. And she's an expert at this point, so she understands condo lingo.
What's
Yeah.
needed in
Yeah.
So
And the underwriters
she
don't
gets
really
it.
review the condos.
They do
What the
not.
condo desk does, which is fun because if you're buying a condo, not saying don't do them, just understand not only do you as the borrower need to be approved, but the project and the
Needs to be
condo has to be approved. So
Mhm.
there's 2 steps. You may get approved, but the condo might not get approved.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because we ran into that one not too long ago where we were having the
HOA would not
HOA.
communicate with us.
and they were being very difficult.
Very secretive, and it was.
There was a lot
Holding
of work
everything
that
up,
may or may
yeah.
not have been done on the property, a bunch of deferred maintenance and stuff, and you know, it can cause issues. So just know there are some extra steps when buying a condo.
Part of the reason why our condo team is so thorough is to protect the client as well.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, last thing you want to do is buy a condo and
Have deferred
find
maintenance.
out that there's a bunch of work that
Mhm.
supposedly has been done, but really wasn't.
Or there's a lawsuit
or they-
against the condo,
Mhm.
or their budget is broke.
yeah,
I mean, that's a
they
bad
got no
thing.
money,
Yeah.
If
so.
they got no money, they can't pay for the maintenance.
Exactly.
Sometimes the consumers don't understand and they get frustrated, but we are just protecting them.
100%. 100%.
It's a big investment,
Definitely.
so.
Absolutely. But switching back for a second, just because the squirrels are running, and that's what they
That
do.
coffee?
Yeah.
The so back to the closing packages. So when the closing package goes out, technology's caught up with us a little bit.
Oh,
There was an
yeah.
email today talking about stats. We're gonna brag on you
There
guys. Before you had to go into the attorney's office and you'd sign probably 30, 40, 45 pages in the old package, right? But now
Mhm.
we use you can't call it a full e-close or
Because
because
of
there
North Carolina
are
laws.
yeah, there's a handful of docs. I think
Yeah.
there's about maybe 10. I'm guessing here 8 to 10. It's not
Sure.
many.
Yeah. It sounds
about
good.
right. Approximately 8 to 10.
There are some forms.
Far less than what it used to be that you do still have to hand sign.
Mhm.
But when Kelly sends out the package, we use the e-close team, and 94%.
94%.
94% of our closings last month were all e-closed.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
Which
pretty good.
the benefit to it for the borrower, is you're
Huge.
not in the attorney's office for an hour and a
Right.
half, and
Yep.
you don't have carpal tunnels when you come out.
Exactly.
And makes it so much easier. But then also the funding of the loan is quicker.
Mhm.
Documents aren't getting lost from the
Yeah.
attorney's office.
Makes it so much
So.
easier and simpler, and cuts costs, which helps cut rates, which helps cuts everything. So that was a good little stat I saw.
That was very good.
I've never personally sat at anything besides an e-close, and
Oh, gosh.
you could be in and out with an e-close in 20 minutes of the attorney's office. So.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, it was about 100 pages
Ooh.
to
Yeah,
go
it's-
through and
it was a
sign and
lot
flip,
of
and you're
stuff.
signing 3 copies of the HUD, and you're
Lot of
signing,
stuff.
yeah.
If
Date
everybody's
ourselves.
chatty, it could
A
be an
little
hour and
longer.
a half thing.
So,
So, no, I love it. Very good
Sweet,
job.
sweet. Is there anything else you want to say about your operations and how your team works, or?
I think we covered it. Again, the girls, the operations team
Or
is
there's a
not
guy.
all
Or
girls,
there's a
right?
guy.
But they're very eager, just like everyone else, to get the loans done and to get them done smoothly. So, again, I would say if they're asking for something, there's a reason.
Yeah.
So, and to get things quickly. The quicker the consumer and borrower respond and get us the documents, the faster we can get the loan cleared close.
Absolutely.
So,
And the process works. I mean, the
Definitely.
team's amazing. They get it done. And I will say, and it's recorded for history and all this, but in almost 3 decades doing this, you have by far the best team I've ever worked with.
I agree 100%.
Huge shout out to our ops
That was
team
3
for sure.
decades for him.
She's longer.
So,
Which makes it fun.
There you go.
Yay.
There you
A lot
go.
of longevity in it.
And that helps. A lot of experience, but there's youth, the energy.
Yep,
Mhm.
So
coming around for sure.
Coming up behind us.
cool.
Yeah. Any other points or squirrels are stopped or?
Nah, the squirrels are still running. We could be here all day, so
Yeah.
we just fell her down on this
There
one.
we go.
There you go.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Our office, you won't see it like this most likely next episode, but
Big announcement coming soon. We'll put the
Big.
location out. We're relocating.
Yeah.
We'll be in a new spot.
Excited?
Officially open,
April 1st.
First, yeah, April 1st. So, moving out of here on the 27th. So, yeah, a little transition for us. New
Yeah.
location. Been in this building for probably 13, 14 years.
I
Been
feel
a
like
while.
14.
It's been a
Yeah,
minute.
it's been a minute.
I will go to the wrong office more than once. I know it'll happen, so it's okay.
I will too, just because
We're
it's
gonna have a pool.
closer.
There you go.
We're gonna have a pool to see how often you go.
It'll be fun.
There we
But-
go.
So tune in next time so you can see the new backdrop.
Definitely.
If nothing else.
Yep.
For
My
those on
artwork.
YouTube.
we'll post an office tour on YouTube as well, so
Exactly.
keep you guys in the loop for sure. But
Exactly. But thank you for joining. Thanks for all the questions and everything else.
yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.